If you print a ton of money, okay, and even if you hand it out to the middle class, that money is going to get spent versus invested in many instances, not all, and the money will trickle up, okay? It's the opposite of trickle-down economics. Hello, Jake and Gino here, and today we are discussing Bill Maher's take on inflation. Gino, where are you coming up with this stuff? What's going on with this one?
You know, sometimes I like to watch YouTube on my downtime, and Bill Maher stuff pops up every now and again. And the things he's been saying over the last 6 months to a year, he sounds as if he's a conservative. Because I think the Democrats have gone so far left. But a lot of their policies, they've left a lot of Democrats like him in the wind. I mean, you could talk about any of these topics, and one of them really is government spending. He calls the government Uncle Sugar. I mean, he says, what do you expect when you pump $6 trillion into the economy? And the problem that they don't understand is that money goes in there. People who are middle class and who are poor will spend it. People who are wealthy will just trickle up, they'll save it, and they'll buy assets, creating a deeper divide. So it's like sugar in the short term where you're creating this, relief, this dopamine hit. But we know that in the short term, nothing gets really completed. It's more of the long term. So he comes out and says, well, what do you expect with inflation? And then you have Andrew Yang on the podcast, who's Mr. Universal Basic Income, who's like, yeah, let's give everyone a flat amount of money. Let's spend more government money. And then what do you think is going to happen? Eggs are going to cost $7 a dozen. And when I was listening to that, I'm saying to myself, do these people have any basic concept of economics at all? They have zero.
They do, and I need to break this down for you right now because it's the ultimate contradiction. You have people screaming about wealth inequality and the rich and the poor and the haves and the have-nots. The same people that are screaming and complaining about it are creating it. And it's to the point that you just made. If you print a ton of money, okay, and even if you hand it out to the middle class, that money is going to get spent versus invested in many instances, not all, and the money will trickle up, okay? It's the opposite of trickle-down economics. It's government spending that ultimately pushes that money into the hands of the rich people because who's selling stuff? The businesses, the rich people. Who's going to hold the money long-term and then place it into assets? The rich people. So it's fine that you go out and give all this stimulus money to whoever, the middle class being. It's going to trickle up and in a year to 2 years end up back in the hands of the people that actually create the jobs and create the products. So if you're sitting there screaming about wealth inequality and then demanding for the government to print money on this, on the second hand, you're ultimately leading to more wealth inequality because that's where the money's going to roll up to. Just want to point that out.
Yeah, we should also make a distinction between rich people and poor people. I want to call it more rich mindset and poor mindset. The poor mindset, you could be a multimillionaire making $3 million a year. You may get that money and spend it. The rich mindset understands when you get that money, you're investing that money, you're saving that money. And what happens when you give trillions of dollars to banks? What do banks do with that money? They lend that money out to people who go out and buy assets. So you already know what's going to happen. The other thing that
if the bank's more money, rich people are going to be. It's just, guys, come on. Like, really, we're really sitting here and we're complaining about wealth inequality when we're printing this kind of money. Give me a fucking break.
What he also says in the show is he talks about interest rates. Well, why didn't interest rates get pushed up sooner? Well, Bill, you wanted Biden to get elected back in 2022. They didn't raise rates because they didn't want to crash the economy. What they should have done, there should have been some responsible adults in the room saying, hey, by the way, you know, we're seeing this massive inflation. I mean, used car prices, all these prices are going crazy. We see that this is going on. If we had raised rates sooner and not as quick, we wouldn't have these bank collapses. I'm going to get to the bank collapses in a second. But this truly is a history lesson for everybody. We are in the beginning of 2023. Let's go back to 2006, 2007, 2008. I was in a different financial position myself back then, but I saw things going around me. What was going crazy back then is what's going to be going on crazy right now. Crypto, Rolex watches, car hacking, used cars. All of these things have been bubbles in the last couple of years. So if you're sitting there and saying, oh, time out, hold on a second, what's going on here? You're saying to yourself, this is a repeat of what's been going on. What do you need to do now to start protecting yourself going forward? And I think what it is right now you need to be doing is you need to be saving some money. You need to be getting ready for the hard times, because all of a sudden the millennials are starting to cry about losing their jobs. 3 years ago was the Great Resignation.
Dude, Amazon cutting 100,000 jobs in last year. Holy crap.
Think about how incredible that is. So I'm just saying right now, you're seeing the bubble. You're seeing it as it's going on right now, and it moves so quickly. And I think the government not raising rates sooner caused the bank collapses. Now, did they do that on purpose to make the banks collapse so they can go in there and save these banks? How could a bank that's been in business for 40 years not understand when rates are historic lows to go out to buy an asset that is long-term with historical low rates? When rates go up, the value of that asset drops, and they're in for 10 years, and they knew rates had to rise sooner or later. So is it because they just have idiots working there, or are they trying to do it on purpose? Is it a combination of both? That's something I think, let's take this into the next cycle, next recession. Let's learn history so we don't repeat it. As long as, I'm not saying repeat it for ourselves. I know the government's going to continue to repeat this, because that's what happens in market cycles. We go into lulls, everyone gets afraid, then rates are going to get cut in the next year to 2 years. Economic stimulus continues to happen, rates shoot back up, and the recession looms, and that's where we are right now. And I think as you're seeing this unfold in your eyes, what are some of the things that you need to be doing? Like I said, start saving some money, start having that cushion. And right now, that whole slogan that cash is trash, well, I hope everyone out there has some cash to take opportunities of some of these assets that we're going to be able to buy going forward.
You said, what should people do? Gino, what do you identify as?
Multifamily investor.
Okay. It's funny because, in the last few years, there's been a thing like people asking, like, what do you identify as? It's been a new concept, to me at least. And I was telling Gino, I was watching the latest Chris Rock Netflix, and he said he identifies as a poor person. And I said to myself, wow, I can get behind that. Regardless of how much money you have, I think I forever and always will identify as a poor person. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can say, oh, you got to have a wealthy mindset. Look, this is the time you probably want to identify as a poor person, all right? Get your spending under control, get your savings right so you can weather the storm. So, Gino, that's what I'm doing, all right? From this day forward, and I've probably always been, I'm identifying as a poor person, sir. Thank you very much.
And, Jake, I want to mention a couple of things that I think as conservatives, and I think as people who truly are liberal, the word I mentioned in another podcast, the word liberal really means liberty, really means freedom. And there's so many examples of the government creating a problem and then coming up with a solution.
They got to have something to do.
They just created this problem because they didn't raise long enough, and now they're trying to create a solution by bailing out.
Or did they create the problem by printing too much money?
Okay, there's another. I was going to give you a couple of examples.
You printed too much money. You kept rates suppressed, and you wonder why you have a problem on your hands. Yeah. Come on, guys.
2 weeks to flatten the curve. 3 years ago. The last week was the anniversary of that. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. So let's keep everybody locked in for a year.
Inflation is transitory.
Inflation. So okay, another one. Energy sector. Let's go to electric vehicles tomorrow. Let's stop the pipeline. Let's stop drilling. All of a sudden, gas is $5 a gallon. Oh, okay. I'm just saying, I want people to be out there and just have eyes open. When the government's trying to do something, what we're trying to promote is
go the other way.
Yeah. I mean, let's keep going. The energy sector, immigration. Well, there's no problem here. Let's stop building the wall. Let's have 2 million people come over the next 12 months, and let's have New York spend $500 million housing people that shouldn't be here. Now, that is criminal to the people who are here because you're using them as pawns. They shouldn't be here. And if they're here, let's treat them right. But let's stop them from coming. Let's make sure. So they create the problem by having this inflow. And then let's do amnesty for everybody. Well, what about the millions of other people who came here legally and tried to do it the right way? And all these people coming in here suppressing wages. So there's when they create the problem, they try to solve with another huge problem. So this has been so evident, and I'm fired up right now, but this is what's been so evident is what we're seeing is what's going on right now. We've created the bubble. The government has created the bubble with printing the money. All of a sudden, money's got to chase crypto. That crashed. Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX, $2.2 billion. Where did that money go, right? They created that problem. Now everyone's selling Rolex watches. Rolex watches are up 100%. Get rid of your cash. Put it into Rolex watches. Then you got car hacking. Everyone's buying these exotic cars, car hacking. I don't see any of those videos anymore on Facebook. I wonder whatever happened to that model. Then you got used cars. My boy over there bought a nice car. All of a sudden, used cars are down 30%. All of these problems that we see happening, just identify it as that's what's happening. So the next time this happens, and as you're seeing it happen in real time, 4 or 5 years down the road, you'll see it happen. You'll exit those assets, and you'll have cash on the sidelines so you can invest in the assets.
Gino, the next one is this ESG. You saw Biden just vetoed a bipartisan bill to protect people's retirement accounts from ESG. Look, guys, it's great. You want to be out there and protect the environment. I get it. But at the same time, you need to look at how effective these efforts really are and what actually is happening from the human side of things when people are mining for these materials for these car batteries and things. So I think diving deep into that, looking at the actual gain or pickup from a carbon perspective, and then understanding that this Silicon Valley bank that failed had large holdings in ESG and a lot of loans out with things that were on this type of activist agenda, and that's going to be the next thing. You're starting to see it with SVP, and you're going to see more of it in the future. So, just be careful with that.
It's important that you say that, because the reason why we're talking about this is we want you to really become financial stewards of your own money. Put your money in a mutual fund, great. It's low level of intelligence. You have no control over that asset. You don't know what these companies are investing in. If you could buy a couple duplexes, you buy some single family homes, you get into multifamily.
Yeah, what if they put the money in Sam Bankman-Friedman's crypto Ponzi scheme or whatever there, right?
Gonzo.
You're done. You had no control over that,
So
right?
That's why we talk about, hey, start a business. Starting a business is a wonderful way to create wealth. Start buying real estate. Real estate's another amazing way to create wealth and to create control. And the third one we talk about a lot of times is whole life insurance. Well, if you got money in a whole life policy and cash value right now, do you really care if the banks fail or not? Money's yours. It's in your policy. You don't have to worry about it. You've opted out of the system, out of that so-called system. So for us, we're talking about all these things about
what's the common denominator of the last three things you just discussed?
Their assets? What are
You being the lead dog, you being in control of your destiny and driving the ship versus putting it off, being a vacant sort of operator of your life. Look, take control, put in the hard work, control the assets, okay, control the business, put the money into something stable. This is what we're talking about. When you check out and you turn your money over to other people to take care of it for you, these are the ESG type SVP results that you're going to get.
And I want to end this by saying thanks, Bill Maher, for finally echoing or uttering the truth of what's
Bill
going
Maher's been
on.
crushing it. Bill Maher's on fire.
Because you know why? I don't know if he finally sees it, but it's just the reality. The reality is stop overspending.
Well, because he's in the crosshairs now and he gets it, right?
Yeah, inflation reduction bill. You're passing a bill to lower inflation by spending more money. Just think about that for a second. I mean, was the word gaslighting? Like, you're an idiot. Yeah. That's not really what it means, but that's what we're doing. Stop and think for a second. Wow. But then on the flip side, how do you compound? What can you do in your life to capitalize on? There's the problem. What's the opportunity? The opportunity is to save your money, to buy an asset that will elevate and will make money in the long run for you and for your family, whether it's cash flow, whether it's appreciation. So understand, identify, and that's what I'm going to leave this off with Kevin Leary's quote, Mr. Wonderful, about what happened with SVB. Let's look at the problem. What's the opportunity? Basically, they took 90% of the depositor's money and bet it on long-term 10-year treasuries right when the Fed was raising rates. Yes, only an idiot banker would do that. But that's what they did. Massive risk, who was sarcastically named Mr. Wonderful. So think about that. There's the opportunity. The problem is big time. So the opportunity for us is to learn from that. We don't do that. We try to mitigate risk. We don't try to hire based on equity inclusion. If you're an entrepreneur or business person, you want to hire on a person's merit. Do they fit your culture? Do they fit your core values? Do they fit the competency test? Right? If you can go out and have a beer with that person, you want to work with that person, and they're competent at the job. Doesn't matter what they look like. I don't care if you're red, green, brown. Who cares your ethnicity? Can you do the job? That's the most important thing. And the people at SVP, they honestly couldn't. Because if they've been in business for 40 years, they've seen market cycles. I guess
but they're also investing in things that are like not able to produce a yield, right?
Yes.
It was activism versus capitalism. So when you go that route and you put yourself into a basic box of contradiction, you're going to get this type of result.
Yes, I agree. So for those of us, those of you listening out there about me pontificating over the last 15 minutes, I think the real lesson in all of this is it's a market cycle. It happened in '08. It's back right now. There's problems going on, but there will be some really good opportunities out there with asset prices, stabilizing, decelerating, and also the labor market. If you're an employer out there, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to go out and hire right.
Here's the thing. If you're looking back saying, well, this is not '08, you're right. But I'm going to tell you right now, the root cause is still the same. It's poor social policy by the government. In '08, everyone needed a house. Now, in 2023, we're doing ESG and woke lending that's leading to a bank collapse. So at the end of the day, it's social policy that bites us in the ass again. So, gang, as always, we believe in buying deals for the long term. Think in decades. I'm Jake. He's the G Daddy, and we make it happen. We'll see you next time.